In Pirkei Avos, Perek Vav, Mishnah Vav, in the 6th chapter, the 6th Mishnah of Pirkei Avos, we find 48 ma'alos, 48 qualities with which one may acquire Torah. Today is the 32nd day of the Omer, and this corresponds with the ma'alah, the quality of Ohev es Hatzedakos, which is generally translated as loving righteous ways. How does one love righteous ways? In order to obtain a proper perspective, I thought it was appropriate to review the conduct of our forefather, Avraham Avinu. We find in Parshas Vayera, in Sefer Bereshis, that Hashem describes Avraham as one who will command his household, la'asos tzedakah u'mishpat, or doing righteousness and justice. The Bnei Yisrael, the Jewish people, are distinguished by three major characteristics. They are Rahmanim, they are compassionate, they are Bashanim, they are shy and have a sense of shame, and they're Gomlei Chasodim, they are benevolent. According to the Gemara in Yevamos, the last of these three traits is derived from the pasuk just quoted. The Rambam in Hilchos Matanos Aniyim, the laws regarding gifts to the poor, also cites this pasuk and states that we must perform this mitzvah of tzedakah more than any other because this is the characteristic of a true descendant of Avraham Avinu. Many years ago, I was privileged to learn much Torah from Rabbi Moshe Aharon Stern, the mashgiach of the famed Kamenetz Yeshiva. Rav Stern related the following incidents as found in the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Avraham Avinu was the paragon of tzedakah. Avraham Avinu was ill on the third day following his bris milah, his circumcision. And because of this pain, Hashem did not want any guests to bother Avraham. He therefore, in the words of Chazal, he took the sun out of its sheath and a fierce heat enveloped the earth. There were no travelers. Avraham sent out his trusted servant Eliezer to find guests, and he was not able to do so. Avraham did not take his word for it, and he went out himself, got dressed, and behold, there weren't any guests. And this caused him great anguish. Hashem saw his pain and saw that this pain was greater than not having guests, and therefore he brought him three malachim in the guise of Arabs. Avraham saw them, asked Sarah to bake bread, and then picture this, Avraham is 99 years old. He's just had major surgery. And in the words of the Chumash, Rutz Avraham. Avraham literally ran to slaughter three calves in order to give the choicest part of the animal, the tongue, with mustard to his guests. Now, Avraham was a wealthy man. And if there were sub-zero refrigerators in his day, he would have had one. But there was no refrigeration in those days, and the rest of the animal was going to go to waste because of the heat. It was the hottest day in history. And to Avraham Avinu, it was all worth it in order to give complete strangers accommodations and food. What was the reward for Avraham for this extraordinary effort? The Gemara continues and tells us that Hashem repaid Avraham by providing Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, when they left the land of Egypt, when they left Mitzrayim, with the manna, the mun in the desert, providing for 2.5 to 3 million people for 40 years as a reward for Avraham's kindness. Another example of Ohev es Hatzedakos can be found in the Gemara in Bava Metzia as related by another Torah giant, Rabbi Shlomo Freifeld. Rabba Bar Chana had a barrel of wine and he hired workmen to move it. Unfortunately, the workmen dropped the barrel. This caused tremendous financial loss. According to the halacha, according to law, Rabba Bar Chana was entitled to compensation and to be repaid for his loss. He therefore seized the coats of the workmen. The workman then went to Rav, and Rav instructed Rabba Bar Chana to return the coats of the workmen because Mishlei states, Laman teilech b'derech tovim, in order to go in the way of good. The workmen complained that they weren't paid and that they were poor and needed to be paid for their services. Rav also instructed Rabba Bar Chana to pay the workmen. Rav Feifeld states that just as Hashem created the world as an act of unmitigated kindness in order to bestow pure good upon his creations, our imperative, Bahalachta B'drachav, in order to emulate the ways of the Creator, that we must also strive for this level of righteousness. On a more esoteric level, we must also address our obligation to exercise tzedakah umishpat in our own relationship to Hashem. Harav Yosef Dov Ber Soloveitchik explores this theme in his Sefer, Avraham's Journey, Reflections on the Life of the Founding Patriarch. As many of you know, the Rav was one of the greatest and creative Jewish thinkers of the last century, and his material, to say the least, is extremely complex and terse. Thus, I'm going to attempt to summarize a very difficult line of thought in but a few phrases. The world belongs to Hashem. He is its master and rightful owner. And our status here in the world is basically that of a tenant residing on the property that is not ours. Indeed, we do not even own ourselves. Whatever we have, our talents, our capacities, our instincts, our feelings and thoughts, belong to the Almighty. Thus, if you sin, you do not give proper tzedakah or violate any other mitzvah, it is tantamount to robbing or misappropriating Hashem's property. To comply with all the mitzvos means to practice tzedakah in one's relationship to God. One can even practice charity with regard to God. And at this point, I urge you to review the translation of the second paragraph of Olenu. This prayer, which is said in all of our tefillos, describes the Almighty waiting for mankind to appear and kneel before Him, to recognize His malchus, His kingdom, and to present Him with the crown. When this occurs, the whole world will find its redemption. Evil will vanish, death will be banished, and tears will be wiped from every face. While the Jewish people recognize Hashem's malchus at this point, we wait impatiently for the universal coronation to take place. The Rav asks, the Almighty is the creator and maker of everything. He is all-powerful and all-knowing. Why does man have to hand the crown to Hashem? Why does man have to consent to Hashem's kingship? In Shir HaShirim, in Perek Zayin Pasuk Vav, the 7th chapter, the 6th verse, we read, I'll translate, "Your head upon you is like the Carmel, and the hair of your head like purple. The king is held captive in the tresses thereof." This is a great hidden mystery. The Melech Asur Burahatim, the captive king. True, Hashem is the source. He's the origin of all being, and nothing exists beside Him. He's omnipotent, and He reigns supreme throughout all of His creations. Regarding the presence of the Almighty in all the cosmos, man's role is zero. However, as far as the Gilu Shechina, the revelation of Hashem's presence in history, in our history and particularly, Hashem has surrendered, so to speak, this role to humanity, and especially to us as chosen people. In a phrase, He is the king who holds Himself captive. Hashem doesn't proclaim His malchus. He waits for everyone to accept His kingdom. He wants us to seize the initiative and plot the course of events, and then the Almighty will complete it. By acting in this manner and fulfilling the will of the Creator by embracing righteous ways and performing them lovingly, man exercises tzedakah with regard to God. May we all be worthy of accepting this responsibility and descend with our love of tzedakos to Kabbalas HaTorah and the yoke of heaven.